In Tragedy, a true crime podcast, we discuss missing persons cases, violent crime, and other sensitive topics that may be difficult for some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. Our show is a place where every story matters and every voice deserves to be heard. To support this podcast, you can subscribe at www.tragedyaTrueCrimePodcast.com for early access to new episodes. And join our Facebook community, Tragedy, a True Crime Podcast, for updates, discussions, and ways to support the families we feature. Welcome to Tragedy, a True Crime Podcast. I'm Elisa.
And I'm Michael.
This episode is going to be full of all kinds of really cool, exciting things that have been happening for us, some benchmarks that we have hit, and we'll also touch on some updates of some cases that we've been covering. So let's get started with the exciting things that are happening with the podcast. We have hit some really cool milestones. And the first one is we have over 2,000 people in our Facebook group, Tragedy, a True Crime Podcast. We're so excited to have everybody from all over the world and keep sharing, keep listening. This is a really important place for us. On the Facebook group, you can see all of our episodes. It's also a place for community conversation and sharing updates. So that's a really big, cool thing I think that we have hit.
Yes, it is. And so it's as well as some of our benchmarks within our Buzzsprout platform. I'll just read through these real quick. Since 2026, we have 37,000 downloads. We're about to publish our 75th episode that comes out next week. We've reached 66 countries, 2,528 cities, and we've collected 17 partners throughout this and throughout the United States.
Yes, I remember when we went to PodFest in January of 2026, and people were saying, oh my gosh, we kept saying, hey, we're new. Well, and they said, how many episodes have you published? I think at that point we were at like maybe 30. Mm-hmm. And they said, oh no, you're not new anymore. Most podcasts don't go past 10. So for us to be hitting 75 next week, that's really, really exciting and just speaks to the relationships that we've built with our families and how we're getting those stories out. So I love this.
Well, the other thing you think about, too, is I think about the number 75, and we have at least another 10 in the hopper right now, and we have a backlog of new cases coming in. I think last time you and I spoke about it, it's almost 4 months long.
Yes. You know, at the end of our episodes, we always say, if you have suggestions for cases, please reach out to us. You can either use our email or you can go straight through Facebook and message me. And that happens a lot. I keep a database, a spreadsheet basically, and I think it is 50 families deep that have reached out for us, reached out for our support. And we have already selected our families for most of the remainder of 2026. So, I mean, it's unfortunate, but I think what we have learned is that there's a need for what we're doing. And so, you know, pretty soon we'll be doing another episode where we're at 100, which will be really exciting.
I'm looking forward to it.
And our listeners know that we attended CrimeCon in May in Las Vegas, and we met some really great people there, made some good connections. And because of what we did at CrimeCon, we also have 2 events that we have been accepted to attend. Our first 2 events that we are attending as creators. So we want to make sure that our listeners are aware of those 2 events. 1, if it's something you might be interested in attending. And 2, if you live in that area, we would love to meet you. So the first event that we will be creators at, we have been accepted, is called Advocacy Con. And this year's Advocacy Con 2026 is going to be in Albuquerque from September 11th through September 13th. And you can learn a lot more about Advocacy Con by going to their website, advocacycon.com. So that'll be in September. And then we are also going to an event called Crimestory Fest. This is October 9th through October 11th. This is outside of Boston in a town called Danvers. And you can learn more about Crimestory Fest by going to Crimestory, it's CRIMESTERY gmail.com. So if you live in or around the Albuquerque area, we'd love to see you in September at AdvocacyCon. But if you live in and around the Boston area, we'd love to see you at Crime Story Fest in early October. Let's get started with some case updates from our hometown and Wakulla County. And let's just start with Jody. And Jody Kilgore is your uncle, right?
That's right.
And he was murdered in 2014. So we're coming up on 12 years. It's an unsolved case in Wakulla County. There are a few things going on around Jody's case. One thing we really want you to note, if you live near Tallahassee or near Crawfordville, there's a pretty big event coming up on October 6th. And every year the family does a vigil. This is the day that Jody was killed. This happens at the old Wakulla County Courthouse, which is right on the Crawfordville Highway. We will be there this year.
Yes, we will.
We'll be there with all of Jody's family. We'll be there with Teresa Rogers, Ian's mom, and we'll also be there with Vicky, LaTonya's cousin, and hopefully Thomasine, LaTonya's mom. So big event. If you live in that area, we'll kind of keep updating on our Facebook page. We would love to have as many people there as we can get. Also, we did have a tip come in around Jody's case. You'll know that we always will take tips on our email, tragedy@truecrimepodcast@gmail.com, or frequently people send them to me through Facebook, and that's fine. I do always relay every single tip that we get to the Wakulla County Sheriff's Office. So we did get a tip, and we sent that along regarding Jody's case, just like we always do. Let's move on to Ian. Unfortunately, at this point, we don't have any updates for Ian Rogers. Now, Ian Rogers has been missing from Wakulla County since August of 2024. This was the second story that we covered. And remember, we had the big break when Ian's truck was located last November. But since then, there really hasn't been any updates that have come from Detective Del Beato, who's lead on that case, has not reached out to Teresa or giving her any updates at this point. So unfortunately, this story in this case is kind of stalled at this point until we can continue to maybe find out. Please send your tips if you have any information about what may have happened to Ian. Those tips, as we said, always we send them to the sheriff's office. Now we have some major updates on LaTonya Thomas's case. LaTonya Thomas was murdered in 2016 in Sopchoppy. This is an unsolved homicide out of Wakulla County that no one knew about.
That's right.
Our listeners know this. We talked about Jody Kilgore being the only unsolved homicide in Wakulla County, and that's how it was reported on the news. In fact, even law enforcement will say Jody Kilgore is the only unsolved homicide in Wakulla County until we found out about LaTonya. So some big things that have happened with LaTonya's case. I'll just give a little foundation for our new listeners. Her murder happened in 2016, March, in Sopchoppy, which is a small town in Wakulla County. And within a little over a year of her murder happening, her case was closed by the state attorney's office and the Wakulla County Sheriff's Office. But as of May of 2026, her case has been reopened. It's very exciting. We're very close with Vicky, LaTonya's cousin. And another big thing that happened is there's finally been some media coverage on LaTonya's story.
Yeah, that's one of the big things I know we were targeting initially is, and we've talked about this before, where you would do a Google search or even an AI search on LaTonya Thomas and you would really get nothing. And I've already mentioned it before, where when we first saw the note that came in from Facebook, I actually thought it wasn't real because it was just, there was like a complete absence of anything. And that's no longer true. Now you'll see reports from the news. You're going to see our podcast. You're going to see a lot more coming because we're not going to let this go. This case has been reopened. We're going to stay on top of it, and we're going to make sure that you guys in the community know what's going on with it.
And because we do have a really close connection with Vicky, we do know a little bit about what is happening with the reopening of the case. What the Wakulla County Sheriff's Office is reporting to Vicky is that they are conducting interviews. She doesn't necessarily know with whom or what questions they're asking, but we do know that they are reviewing the medical report and the findings from 2016. We find this a little bit interesting because this happened so long ago. They obviously cannot go back and repeat an autopsy. So what they are doing is reviewing the original medical findings. We don't really know why, but that is part of the reopening of the case. So it sounds like they're doing some interviews and maybe re-looking at the medical examiner report, which did result in the finding of her cause of death as homicide. Let's talk a little bit about tips again. In LaTonya's case, we are getting a lot more tips than we are in our other cases. And I think this is because people who, you're from this area, right?
That's right.
People stay. And while this was several years ago, people are still from that area. They still live there. The trailer park that she was killed in is still there. And I am starting to get, we'll say, several people who are reaching out to me who want to be anonymous with tips. As with any other tip, I always reach out to the local sheriff's office. In this case, we always have one person that we contact when we have tips regarding our stories in Wakulla County, and then that's the public information officer. Something kind of unusual, and I'm going to say unsettling, happened in regards to some tips that came to me about LaTonya. As I mentioned, I always just reach out to the public information officer, and normally that person will call me back, take my tip, and move forward with it. In this case, what happened instead is the lead detective on LaTonya's case spoke about the tips that we received with Vicky. So I called it in, and the lead detective asked Vicky what my tips were. Who had I talked to? What were the tips? And then Vicky asked me to share those with her. And I thought that was really strange because that means it's like a third-hand tip, right? I have an anonymous source. I'm trying to relay what that person told me. But the lead investigator in LaTonya's case is asking for it to come from Vicky. And so I asked Vicky why they wanted to do that. And what Vicky told me is that detective said, when it's an open case, we prefer to take tips from the family, which also didn't make any.
Well, I'm just going to interrupt there. That makes no sense at all. We're still members of the community. You know, we've got an open channel to the community. And frankly, there are people who are willing to talk to us that are not willing to talk to the sheriff's department. We are putting this together not to push our podcast. We are putting this together to be advocates for the community. And until you start to understand that, you will continue to fail.
And this is in direct conflict with what we were told when we met with representatives at the sheriff's office was regarding Jody's case is we need the community to step forward. We need, to hear from the community. And now us as members of the community are coming forward with information that is shared regarding the unsolved homicide of LaTonya Thomas. But instead we're told, well, the family member should reach out to the person who has the tip and they should get the tip and they should relay it. Like, these things don't make sense to me at all. These are in direct conflict with each
and we've shared this with some of our other contacts and various law enforcement agencies that actually do cooperate with us, and they found it highly irregular as well.
So what I did instead was I submitted those tips on LaTonya's case to Big Bend Crime Stoppers because I have done that before. And I do know that those have to be filtered to the correct law enforcement agent. And since you mentioned something about talking to other people, we have supported families in other states who have had experiences with other law enforcement agencies. Let's talk about this medical report real quickly. Let's go back to Jody for a second. Something that we have really been trying to get from the very beginning, a year and a half ago, either us or Jody's family, is that medical report. And they will not give it to us. The Wakulla County Sheriff's Office will not give it to Jody's mom. They will not give it to Jody's sister. This is direct family. And we had a conversation with, I think it was a private investigator in one of our episodes, maybe a couple of weeks ago. And we started to talk about this, and she was shocked. She said she had never supported a family who was unable to get the medical report delivered to them, even in open cases. And this was new, right? Like, we're new to this whole thing. I've never had experience as a law enforcement agent. Luckily, I haven't had to interact with law enforcement agencies about missing people or unsolved homicides until now. And so I just always assumed maybe that was kind of typical. Turns out it's not. It's actually atypical to withhold a medical report from a family. So I found that, again, I'm going to use the same word, unsettling.
That's correct.
So if you have any information about the unsolved homicide of Jody Kilgore or LaTonya Thomas or the missing persons case of Ian Rogers, please call the Wakulla County Sheriff's Office at 850-745-7100. The lead investigator on Jody Kilgore's case is Detective Wester. On Ian Rogers' missing persons case is Detective Del Beato. And on LaTonya Thomas's unsolved murder is Detective Hudson.
Now, we're going to get outside of Wakulla County now and talk about West Palm Beach and the Michael John Olson case.
Michael John Olson went missing in December of 1979 from West Palm Beach. He was 20 at the time and had just relocated from Minnesota to work at the Presidential Golf Course. And he'd only been in West Palm Beach for 2 weeks when he went missing. We, again, have a really good connection with the family. In fact, we're about to meet this family in person in a couple of weeks, which is very exciting for us. We love getting a chance to meet the families that we're serving, and we have been connected with this family for over a year. It's just going to be really cool to be able to meet all the nieces and his brother and all of that. So Michael John Olson went missing with his vehicle. And for those of you who are not Florida residents, you might find it very interesting to know that in Florida, it's actually quite common for vehicles to go missing. Vehicles go missing because people dump them, or maybe for insurance purposes, right? They're trying to...
Insurance, joyriding, all kinds of stuff.
All right. My Colorado brain took a long time for me to wrap around that. But because of the situation and the circumstances around Michael John Olson's disappearance, this is where we really developed a good, solid relationship with Sunshine State Sonar. And something really important happened within the last month. Sunshine State Sonar does a lot of diving, mostly in South Florida, looking for missing people and their vehicles, and have recovered over the years several missing people and their vehicles in the canals and waterways in South Florida. And they were outside of West Palm Beach maybe about a month ago searching for another person, and they located a vehicle of interest in a canal in Belle Glade, which seems to be about an hour away from West Palm Beach. Now, this vehicle of interest was a Grand Prix, right, that they located. They weren't able to really look at it very closely. The canals, I think, are pretty muddy. But after they dove it and marked it, they were like, oh, my gosh.
Oh, yeah. What they talked about was they dove it, they marked it. It wasn't the divers that were on it at the time were not the divers that were most familiar with the Michael John Olson case. So they marked it and moved on. And then Mike Sullivan later goes, oh, crap, we have to go back. And what they found basically was a Grand Prix. It was maroon. It was approximately the right dimensions. And it, it was so murky and muddy that it was really difficult. Well, I should probably say that too. It was flipped upside down. So it was really difficult to identify. So there was a lot of interest, obviously, from the family on this, because we're like, this is the first Grand Prix he's ever come across, and it's even the right color and approximately the right year. Now, he contacted the West Palm Beach Police Department, and then that's when things got pretty, I would say, an interesting and frustrating at the same time. Initially, they took really no interest in going and looking at that vehicle. And it wasn't until the family basically said, oh, we're going to go take care of it ourselves. We're going to look at it. And suddenly they're like, oh, wait a second. Okay, we'll take a look at it. But then their response was even more bizarre from that point, because they're like, oh, we'll take a look at it, but we're going to charge you $500 to go get it. And we're like, okay. So the good news is Mike kind of interjected here, because he's like, oh, this is BS. But you know what? I want to take a much closer look at this car, because I want to be the person who looks at it. I want to look at the details. And we really thought we had something here. We thought we had found Mike. And what we found is it is a Grand Prix. It's 1 year off of his model. The tag does not match Michael John Olson's license plate. It's very difficult to read, but there was no letters or numbers that matched. And while the color, approximate dimensions were the same, there are characteristics that significantly change between a 79, which is what Michael John Olson had, versus a 1980, which is actually what's in the canal. So at this point, we do not believe that we found Michael John Olson's car, but it damn sure looked like it.
Yeah, and of concern really is the response from the West Palm Beach Police Department. The family has worked so closely with all of these organizations, and, Sunshine State Sonar finds a vehicle that they can't precisely say whether it is his or not, and the West Palm Beach Police Department tells the family that they have to pay to be able to get this car pulled out. Like, I don't get it. I think I'm just going to go along the theme of, like, this is unsettling, like I was talking about with the Collier County Sheriff's Office. The West Palm Beach Police Department continues to just make me very unsettled. Those of you who are new to our podcast, I should probably explain to you that we went to West Palm Beach about a year ago, and I walked into the West Palm Beach Police Department twice, had already notified that Detective Senior and her supervisor that I would be there. The family told them that I would be there and that maybe we could get an update that we could share with the family. And of course, they were conveniently in the field or
they
out
just
of the
dodged
office.
you. I mean, they can say whatever you want, but they just dodge you.
Right. There is this theme of just this very strange lack of communication between the law enforcement agents that should be supporting our families and the families themselves. And personally, it's even happened to us when we're talking about our families in Wakulla County. But it did get a little interesting there for a few weeks, thinking that perhaps his vehicle and then perhaps Michael had been located. But at this point, it does not look like this is the vehicle that belonged to him. However, if you do have any information about the disappearance of Michael John Olson from December of 1979 in West Palm Beach, please reach out to Detective Senior. Her number is 561-822-1900.
Now let's move on to the Cody Haney case. Now, the first thing I wanted to kind of point out on this one is our interaction with law enforcement when it comes to communication has not been great. And so state of Florida is really knocking it out of the park. And I actually felt like maybe this was normal and this is what you should expect. However, then we met Liberty County's and the sheriff at Liberty County, and everything regarding that opinion changed for me. You want to talk about that interaction whenever you phoned in your tip?
Yes. So we learned about Cody Haney, who's been missing from Liberty County since June of 2024, from Ian's mom, Teresa. Teresa had a message from Michelle, and Michelle is Cody's mom. And that is how we met Michelle, and we were able to support her with the several episodes that we did on Cody's disappearance. And Cody's been missing for just over 2 years, again, out of Liberty County, a neighboring county to our home county. And something really interesting happened. I think it was maybe about, 6 weeks ago or so. I had yet again another tip come in. A lot of people are uncomfortable speaking with law enforcement for whatever reason. We're not here to judge on that. So tips will come to us that people choose to remain anonymous. So I had a tip come in, and I went ahead and called the Liberty County Sheriff's Office, relayed my tip, and my phone rang, and it was Sheriff Arnold from Liberty County. And we spoke for almost an entire hour. He was very interested in our tip. I can tell he's listened to our podcast episodes. He thanked us for the work that we are doing and encouraged us to continue to move forward, and really sees us as a partner in this work as they try to figure out what happened to Cody. The lead detective is Detective Tadlock. I didn't speak with him directly, but I did speak with the sheriff. While there are elements of that conversation that do need to be off the record, I can share that just recently, a person of interest was interviewed in relation to Cody's disappearance. So if you have any information regarding the disappearance of Cody Haney out of Liberty County in Florida, please reach out to Detective Tadlock at 850-643-2235. As we conclude today, we would just like to start out by thanking all of our new community members, and please share. We'd also like to talk about our upcoming family that we are supporting starting next week. And this is a case out of Oak Grove, Louisiana. The West Carroll Parish Sheriff's Office holds this case, and this is a little different from what we have done before. We will be speaking with the family of Crystal McCrory, And Crystal died in January of 2023, and her death was ruled a suicide within under 2 hours. We have spoken to several members of her family and close friends, and we're looking forward to supporting this family starting next week. And as we wrap today, we want to give a shout out to our subscribers. We do a lot of really cool things with our subscribers. One of those is early access. So our episodes almost always are available on Monday. Our subscribers get early access the Friday before the Monday where all of the other episodes are dropped. One of the really fun things that we are doing with our subscribers are quarterly Zoom meetings. And we do some case updates. We get together all of our subscribers in a Zoom session. We have conversations that we don't have on the podcast or that aren't on the Facebook group. And most importantly, sometimes someone will come forward in one of those Zoom meetings and want to talk about one specific case. And, we don't know everything. And so we love it when people ask us questions. It helps us go in maybe new directions. So we really would love to include more subscribers to our community. You can find that information out on how to subscribe on our webpage, and we will also include more information and the link in the description of this episode. The more we talk, the closer we get to solving some of these cases. So we find that work very important. You've been listening to Tragedy, a true crime podcast. Our purpose is to honor victims by sharing their stories through the voices of friends, family, and those whose lives were forever changed. If today's episode resonated with you, we encourage you to subscribe, leave a review, and share the podcast so these important stories continue to be heard. Together, we can preserve their memories and ensure their voices are never forgotten. If you have ideas for cases we should cover or questions about what you heard, you can connect with us through our Facebook group, Tragedy, a True Crime Podcast, on X @Tragedy Podcast, by email at tragedyaTrueCrimePodcast@gmail.com, or by visiting our website, www.tragedyaTrueCrimePodcast.com. Thank you for listening, and we hope you'll join us next time.